I would say in like 10 more seconds, we are also recording this while we're doing this. So I would say just go. Okay. So like 5 seconds. 5 seconds, you good to go?
Ooh, I gotta get nasty work. Nasty.
Yes, sir. I'll solve it.
I'm still smooth.
How wide is it?
Hey, black people, thumbs up, thumbs to the side, thumbs down. Also, this is volume. This is for the live stream. Everybody say hi, live stream. Hey, so look, today we got an amazing moderator. This is her first time back in 2 weeks. Everybody say 2. That's 14 days. Now somebody like this, that's like 140 events. She got like 10 events a day, 10 events a day. So, y'all please stand. Come on, black people, go ahead and stand up and give a warm welcome to Keela the Polished Lady. Come to the front to get things started.
Let's go for it.
All right. Mic check 1 2 1 2. We can hear. We live. Welcome everybody to the Black Liberation Series, where the theme is critical thinking is crucial. Y'all ready? Okay. Those of you at home, thank you so much for joining us. But before we get started, I just wanted you guys to know that I'm so excited to be back and live with y'all. But right now, I'm going to welcome Recovery Ray for a mindful moment so he can reset the room, okay? We just got out of rush hour traffic. Most of us, or some of you, are at home just chilling at the crib. And we want to have you in the game. So please welcome Recovery Ray.
We're here last year. Welcome back. And if this is your first time being here at the lecture series, welcome. My name is Raymond DeShiel. I also go by Recovery Ray. I'm the founder of Balance Period, which is a health equity firm. And we are here to help close the racial health gap here in Indianapolis and beyond. And we're doing that by empowering communities to create generational wellness. We talk a lot about generational wealth in our community, but health gap is just as large, if not larger, than the wealth gap. So we're looking to help people integrate healthy habits into their daily life so they can pass those down and so that we can live happier lives collectively. So one of the ways that I help people do that is through mindfulness. So today I am here to guide us through a mindful moment. It is a breathing practice paired with a moment of stillness, and it's designed to help you ground yourself to the present moment, to let go of anything that no longer serves you, from being able to fully engage and be fully present for today's event, okay? All I need you to do is listen to the sound of my voice, and I'll guide you through this process. First and foremost, I want you to pay attention to your posture. All right, sit upright, yet relaxed. I'll count us down 3, 2, 1, and we'll take a few deep breaths together, and then I'll guide us through a brief awareness practice. So feel free to close your eyes or lower your gaze. The intention here is just to experience some rest and some ease. 3, 2, 1. Take the first deep breath. Inhale through your nose. Really fill your lungs. And breathe out through your mouth. And again, big inhale through your nose. Really fill your lungs. And out through your mouth.
That's good.
And one more time, big inhale through your nose. And out through your mouth. I want you to allow your breathing to return to its normal pattern. I want you to notice the contact that your body's making to the surface beneath you, and really feel where those connections are being made. Maybe your feet against the floor or your back against your chair. Just really pay attention to what you can feel. Now I want you to notice any movement you can feel in your body as you breathe. Maybe it's in your chest or in your abdomen. Just really notice those sensations you can feel. Now if your mind has wandered from this awareness practice, that's okay. That's normal. Just gently and kindly bring your attention back to the sensations you feel as you breathe. Now I want you to bring your awareness to the muscles of your neck and shoulders. I want you to notice if you feel any tightness or tension there. I want you to do any movement that feels good for you to help aid those muscles in experiencing some ease, maybe a neck roll or a shoulder roll. The intention here is to give the muscles the permission to relax. Now, as we come to the end of this mindful moment, I want you to bring to mind something that you're grateful for. This may be a person, a place, or thing. Whatever it may be for you, just focus on what you're grateful for. Notice any sensations you feel as you experience gratitude. All right, let's take one more big, deep breath together. Inhale through your nose, really fill your lungs, and out through your mouth. If your eyes are closed, slowly begin to blink them open. Welcome back. All right. Before I hand the mic back over to Keela, I want to see if there's any reflections that anyone would like to share from that mindful moment experience. Anything that anyone would like to share with the group? That's real. That's real. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else feel something similar? It was kind of hard to relax during that time? See a couple head nods. Anyone else? Any other reflections? Maybe just something that you were grateful for when we focus on gratitude? Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Sometimes it's hard to think about what we're grateful for when we feel like there's so many things going on in our lives that aren't in alignment with what we really want. But something as simple as just being grateful for being here is a great place to start. So thank you for sharing that. All right. Well, thank you all for participating in that mindful moment. I always say this, but don't let this be the last mindful moment that you take today or until the next time you hear me guide you through a mindful moment. Be sure to prioritize time to pause and breathe and reconnect to the present moment in your daily life. There's a couple things that I want to bring your attention to for ways that you can stay engaged with me and my brand balance period. The first, if you enjoyed that mindful moment, should have this in one of these pockets here. We recently developed a guide. Maybe I put it in my back pocket. Yeah, I did. We recently developed a guide that you can use to help take yourself through a mindful moment practice. Makes it very accessible, something that you can do without me present. I have one on my laptop, and it's just a reminder to pause and take a deep breath. So you can go to shop.balanceperiod.com or find me after this event, and you can grab yourself one of these. The other way that you can stay engaged is we facilitate workshops. We had our first one earlier this month. We'll have our next one next month, July 17th on a Wednesday evening. And it'll essentially be a time where I help guide you through the process of mapping out strategies to integrate healthy habits into your daily life. It's called the Sustainable Self-Care System Workshop. All right, there's limited seats available, and with every ticket comes a meal from Sweet Green. That's our exclusive meal sponsor for the events. So I would love to see as many of you in there as possible. If you go to our social media at Balance Period, you'll be able to click the link in our bio, and you can grab a ticket there. All right, thank you all once again, and I'll hand it back over to the polished lady.
Did y'all enjoy that? I love when Recovery Ray say, feel the sensations. Yeah. Made me take a breather. Yeah, for real. Okay, so up next we're going to have our opening prayer. We're going to have Tamisha Do. And she is a 26-year-old mother of one beautiful baby girl. She was born and raised in Indianapolis, Indiana, but she lived in Houston, Texas for 3 years. The Lord called her home in May of 2023. She's alive, y'all. When I read that, I said, whoa, okay. To begin her ministry, Transformation Thursdays, which is a ministry that aims to provide community for young adults on their walk with Christ and bring them closer to their love of God. She also facilitates a weekly virtual Women of God Bible study, and she recently graduated from beauty school and began her own business, Effortless Aesthetics, okay? And she is a God-fearing woman who is dedicated and committed to honoring and serving the Lord and spreading the gospel. All right now, y'all ready? Bring out my girl, Tamisha Do. Hey.
everybody. I'm so thrilled to be here. So, although I'm here to open up in prayer and give the blessing in the room, I just wanted to share a scripture that I believe ties perfectly with the theme of why critical thinking is important. So, I'm going to go to Romans 12, verse 2, because you can't talk about freedom without talking about God. So, the scripture reads, "Don't copy the behaviors and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way that you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect." So I believe that went perfectly because when you discuss being free, you have to understand the power of perspective. So if you don't think you're worthy of being free, then you're going to always be captive no matter what you do or where you go. So I just wanted to place that on your hearts so you guys can meditate and rest on that as we welcome the rest of the phenomenal speakers that you're going to hear. And just be intentional to know that it starts with the mind. Before you do anything, really receive what is being said because they have so many facts that really will better you overall as people, as a culture, as an individual, and whatever else you go into after this. Perspective, there is power in perspective. So I just want to give a prayer. So I pray everybody just close their eyes and bow their heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you now, Lord. Just thanking you so much for allowing us to gather in this room. I thank you so much for bringing us here today together to learn, to listen, to understand your will and your way for our lives, God. I thank you so much for getting us all here safely, God. And before we discuss how to be free, Lord, we just want to come to you, Lord, and understand that you are the way to life. And without you, there is nothing. So I just pray that we open the hearts, the minds, and the ears of everybody in this room, Lord, and you move and rest your presence in the center of every conversation that is brought here today. We thank you, we honor you, we give you all the praise, all the glory. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Y'all feel blessed? Hey, hallelujah. Hallelujah. So, okay, thank you, Tamisha. Right now, I'm getting ready to introduce the 2024 Mover of the Year, Miss Tamise Cross. Okay, Miss Tamise Cross is the co-founder and executive director of P30, the space we are occupying right now. Amen. The mighty black woman, in the words of good brother Murdoch would say. Tamise has dedicated her life to. We good? Okay, Tamise has dedicated her life to impact and service, and being born and raised in Chicago, Illinois, and also a resident of the Far East Side, she understands firsthand what it means to live in a community that has limited resources and bountiful strife. Making the intentional effort to affect change in her own life, despite the circumstances intended to limit her, she chose to ignite hope by devoting her mind, body, and spirit to her faith. She started working in non-for-profit by developing youth programming for local community-centered charitable organizations over 25 years, was a minister leader by teaching and leading worship for over 20 years. Now, she's chosen to dedicate her life to the Far East Side of Indianapolis by being the director of P30, an entrepreneur incubator, community hub, and co-working space. Resources and opportunity for community residents who are often and stigmatized to help disrupt inequality, ignite hope, and launch prosperity. She has also had the unique opportunity and gift and ability to intentionally build deep and meaningful relationships along the way by sharing her story as well as passionately helping to develop and diverse and inclusion communities throughout her life.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. I'm glad to sit down and just have a conversation with you all about tonight. But before I do that, she just mentioned that I spent a lot of my years doing youth development and youth programming. And what's so ironic is tonight there's a real estate developers boot camp that's going on in another room. And there's a young man that I mentored in middle school that tapped me on my shoulder and said, "What are you doing here?" And yeah, of course, that's a long story. And I was able to share with him what was happening here in this room as I walked him over here so he can see my son, because we did like summer camps and things like that together when he was younger. And he was saying that he had spent 3 weeks in Ghana and just recently got back, and that they're talking about the same thing in Ghana. They're talking about how we need to get together and create black liberation even in another country. So I thought it was super dope just before I got to speak to you all, just to recognize the alignment of all of us as black people in the state of Indiana, in the city of Indianapolis, in the nation, and even internationally, that we all on the same page. This is something that we all want, and I'm just very grateful to be able to share with you all and introduce the theme for this evening. So I do have notes. Most of y'all heard me speak, and I normally try to speak from my heart, but I only have a certain amount of time, so I was just like making sure I didn't ramble and that I made good use of my time. So I'm here and honored to be in your presence tonight to introduce tonight's theme. Critical thinking is critical, especially as it pertains to black liberation. I normally get super nervous when I speak in front of a large group of people, especially when I'm in the presence of you all, some powerful, passionate, purposeful people. But tonight is not about that. Tonight is not about me, it's about we. It's about what we can do together, and tonight is an evening of activation if you chose to come here to be activated. I have been preparing, reading, going back into our black history, and listening to those who have come before me. And whether you all recognize it or not, we are just continuing something that had already started many, many years ago. This is what we do. When there's a problem, when there's a solution that needs to be discussed, this is what we do. We gather, we come together, and we talk. And so I'm just grateful to continue to follow in that legacy and to introduce this topic. We came together to hear from leaders. Well, back in the past, there were leaders who had these conversations, and they talked about it because they were about that life. They were about fighting for freedom, no matter what it took. They fought for freedom so much, it didn't even matter if they had to die while trying. And those are the footsteps that we're walking in as we come together and we sit amongst one another. So to speak about this topic in this space specifically is all the more a power move for us. This evening is being set up for you to hear from women that are passionate about this form of liberation that is not being communicated out of emotion, but is being communicated out of passion. Passion to encourage our brothers and sisters to join forces and engage our problems with intellectual solutions. Solutions that will cause us to reestablish the village that has been lost over the years, ever since we were abducted from the country that had nothing but villages and beautiful black culture. So many thoughts flooded my mind as I prepared for this. There's so much to say, and I only have 10 minutes. So this evening, I hope that it would encourage you and activate your black voice. And I hope that it would activate your black purpose and the reason why you're here, in order for you to create more spaces like this so that we can continue to gather with each other and talk about what we need to talk about. But all at the same time, not only do we want to talk about it, we want to create action plans so that we can make these things happen together. Amen? Amen. All right, y'all can talk to me a little bit. All right, we can talk, have a little. I know I'm sharing and I'm speaking, and I remember being here last year, and we was at the Indiana Historical Society, and so yeah, it was a lecture, and it was, you know, where you get to hear and see the presentation and things that's going on. But this is intentional to create an intimate environment in order for us to interact with one another, nod our heads and say yeah and say amen and things like that, to encourage one another so that we can continue, like I said, to create more spaces like this. So don't look at it like these women are up here speaking about something that you can't speak about. I hope this activates you in order to see that You too have a voice. You too have a purpose. You too have a reason. And you are here in order to connect with us so that we can create what we want, Black liberation, right? Thank you. I will be honest and let you know that I have not always practiced a life that caused me to think before I speak or think before I reacted. And so I learned the hard way over and over again. I wanted to use so many excuses as to the reason why I behaved the way that I did back in the past, but something came up in my mind one day, an old 80s commercial, where it was like a skillet with a scrambled egg, and in it you would hear them say, a mind is a terrible thing to waste. So growing up in a household, right, where there was women in my household that had mental illnesses. Matter of fact, mental illness was pretty prevalent in my family, in the women in my family in general. It wasn't just one generation, it was two. Matter of fact, I'm sitting in front of you, I'm one generation away. And it's just a choice that I make to stay healthy. My maternal family came from Arkansas. My great-grandmother was a sharecropper. Her mother died at a young age. My great-grandmother was 5 years old, and she was raised by her siblings. She began having children at the age of 13, and imagine what that's like, having multiple children before you turn 20 and no education. This is where the cycle in my family began, and I know that there's other families in this room it's not just my own. It's many of us in this room as well. So the older I grew, the more I matured, and I began investing in my maturation process, the more I began to recognize how my life was critically affected by my emotional decisions versus learning about the power of strengthening my mindset by thinking more critically. So let's unpack that. What is critical thinking? Criticalthinking.org says that critical thinking is self-guided, self-disciplined thinking which attempts to reason at the highest level of quality in a fair-minded way. People who think critically consistently attempt to live rationally and reasonably. This was far from how I grew up. In fact, I continue to read on that same website, and it said that the term critical thinking was actually coined in 1987. Y'all, I was born in 1981. So critical thinking wasn't a term that was communicated in my household as I was growing up in my younger years. And I'm sure that's the same for many of us in this room. However, critical thinking is a term that ought to continue to be communicated, especially to us as a group of people that are passionate about change. We don't desire to wait for this change, but rather create this change, and it cannot be done emotionally. We know that emotional interactions cause, we know what emotional interactions cause, and how much chaos it creates. It's not that we can't handle the chaos, but as wise leaders, it is imperative that we recognize that when we declare a shift to happen, it must first begin in our minds. One day, a spiritual encounter happened, and I was no longer the same. This is important because I believe this is the reason the agenda began with a mindful moment and with a spiritual connection. We have to center ourselves and connect with our Creator in order to understand who we are, to even care enough to think about how we show up when we show up. That's what happened to me. Your Mover of the Year honoree woke up spiritually and chose to show up for herself first. She showed up for the reason she was born to live and not simply to exist while allowing life to happen. She chose to stack paper. You think I'm talking about money, but I'm talking about books, paper books. I chose to learn the definition of the words that I was reading because I knew one day that I would be speaking, and one of the greatest books I have ever read taught me that life and death is in the power of my tongue. So I chose life. I chose to think before I spoke. I chose to think before I responded. I chose to think before I created the plan that allows us to sit in this room on this very day. I am absolutely the proud visionary, co-founder, and creative leader of this beautiful space. All of it was formed from a thought process that is now manifested. There was most certainly powerful moves that were made to get here, and I'm not done. I just started. I am new to leadership in this way. I have led in many ways, and I've mismanaged my leadership, which caused me to get kicked out of school and lose a full academic scholarship at Iowa Wesleyan. but I am no longer that woman. All right? So I desire to continue to grow in this position. And I desire to continue to create spaces for people like us who were once like me mentally to see how important this work is. To critically think about how you show up for yourself, how you show up for your family, and how you create a legacy so those who are coming behind you can eat from the table you prepared is highly important. We are not who we used to be. And I encourage you to invest in your maturation process and learn, like I had to, that emotions are information, certainly not the place to make decisions. We can make powerful moves together if we let go of our emotions, we critically think, we do our self-work, we do our self-care, we take care of ourselves, and we remind ourselves that when we take care of ourselves, it's important for us to take care of each other, and that's where Black liberation begins. So let's continue to create space together for one another so we can empower each other to live and create liberating experiences for our people, Black people. Why? Because we need each other. And also because they not like us.
I don't know if I can say this on the mic, but they not like us. They not like us. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay, thank you. That's why she 2024 mover and shaker of the year. Like, that's why. Okay, yes, I'm rejuvenated. Thank you so much for that conversation, Tamise Cross. And now I'm about to introduce a mighty Black man himself. As he says, that Blacktastic guy over there is named Brother Jamal Nelson. He is a 26-year-old historian, entrepreneur, and community advocate. He is also known for his Black culture and knowledge of self board game. His book, First Fist of Plight novel, and re-education programs across the city. Can we give it up for Brother Jamal Nelson?
It would be a disservice if I didn't thank the mighty Black women involved in making this effort as Blacktastic as it is today. We got the polished ladies in the building. The mighty Black woman herself, Tamise, the eloquent Lasha Taylor, and the powerful Tamisha, Sierra, and Isha. Ain't it just something special about a Black woman? Nothing on this earth is more divine than a Black woman. They the most essential component to Black civilization. Their beautiful, unique qualities and graces are unmatched. The Black woman is the most precious and virtuous gift on this earth. They all that and a Blacktastic bag of chips. If you ever want to know the condition of a group of people, then look at how the women are treated. And before I forget, give yourselves a mighty Black hand for pulling up at 6 p.m. on a Wednesday. Some of y'all just got off work. Look at your neighbor and say, I'm fresh off the clock. Look at your other neighbor and say, I just got off the clock. When Murdoch and I eventually settled on the name Black Liberation Lecture Series, I was excited because we as a people need to be liberated from so much. The word liberation is the act of setting someone free from oppression, imprisonment, or any type of bondage. A release from any type of pain or suffering. We must think critically about our ancestors, the ones who came before us, not only knowing what they did, but study and apply their efforts and contributions to the present to solve our issues as Black people today. Once this way of thinking is adopted and applied, this new approach will improve us spiritually, mentally, socially, politically, physically, and economically.
We can start off small, take some baby steps. It ain't gonna happen overnight. For example, we need to demolish law enforcement and come up with a new way of protecting and governing our people. You think an organization that started off as African slave catchers or black slave hunters gonna have black folks' best interest at heart? But before we do that, we gotta start off small. Take some baby steps. Let's start off small by demolishing AES first, because my last energy bill didn't make no type of sense. Raise your hand if your AES bill last month was excessively high. I'll put 2 hands up for that. It don't make no sense. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment by myself, just me and my 200 books. I don't even read my books. I read my books outside, no lights on, no nothing. Look at your neighbor and say they getting over on the people. So how can we start off small? Baby steps. When it comes to thinking critically about new methods, new tactics, new approaches to improve our overall quality of life. Self-preservation, self-reliancy, and self-sufficiency as black people. We can start off small by ending the celebration of these Eurocentric and regressive holidays. Celebrating these anti-black and white holidays goes against your black-tastic mind, body, and spirit. Everybody want to end white supremacy until holidays come around. You think it's a coincidence that every month on the American calendar there's a holiday deemed worthy of so-called celebration? And you celebrate a holiday by spending money you ain't got, using a firm, afterpay, and labor. Us in here work 2 jobs and a side hustle. You get off your first job at 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., then do DoorDash, Instacart, Uber, or place a parlay on one of these sports betting websites just to make it to your next paycheck. But they tricked you into believing you have to squander your hard-earned black dollars, waste your valuable black time and labor to pay for their holidays. We must always study the history of a thing to understand what it is today. The great liberator Frederick Douglass said it best. From what I know of the effect of these holidays upon the slave, I believe them to be amongst the most effective means in the hands of the slaveholder in keeping down the spirit of insurrection. White American holidays are a distraction to what's really going on in the world. During slavery, the only holidays enslaved Africans, our ancestors, could participate in, if they were lucky, was Christmas and New Year's. Our ancestors, our family members from back in the day, were living in inhumane and deplorable conditions, not even considered human beings in the eyes of white American law. To this day, we are only human beings because of the 13th Amendment. Words on a piece of paper that could be reneged and retracted at any given moment. It was illegal for our people to read and write. Majority were separated from their families. Didn't know their native lands, native tongue, family history, cultural mores, foreways, social norms. Didn't even know if they was going to make it to see another day. But hold on now. On Christmas and New Year's, they got a little break from their oppression. They got to put a little smile on their face to escape reality. With all the social chaos and destruction we see today, internationally, we see devilish Zionism. Israel's persecution against the innocent Palestinians. Israel, those devils, slaughtering the innocent Palestinians in droves. African countries, our people, like Sudan, Congo, Kenya, and other African countries being exploited for land, resources, and labor. That's how capitalism, the American government, and colonial powers exploit black or African people here in America. All people of the African genotype across the world living in innumerable geographical locations are being exploited for land, resources, and labor. Our brothers and sisters in Haiti, still catching hell from the French and American forces because they fought the French and white America for their human rights, for their liberation in 1804. Why do you think Haiti is so poor today? It's not by coincidence. It's by meticulous and intricate design. The Haitian Revolution, which was the first time in history a slave rebellion, led to the formation of an all-black nation. Haitians are still paying physically and financially to the French and white America simply for fighting the French and white America for their freedom. We see the masses of black folks or African Americans facing financial hardships today due to how inflation is hitting us. The landlords of these apartment complexes expect us to make 3 times the rent for an overpriced apartment. Then they get upset when we get on the phone with our cousin trying to act like we work for them so we can get approved for the apartment. Y'all act like I ain't never did it before? Y'all too bougie, I'm by myself? Hey, cuz, they probably gonna call you. You gotta say this and that, woo, 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 just play it off like this, da 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 da. It's stuff out here. You gotta do what you gotta do. We facing inflation and spending all this money to celebrate their holidays to ease our mind having to choose between overtly racist Donald Trump and covertly racist Joe Biden. But don't worry, it's all good. What Kendrick Lamar say? We gonna be all right. Because the 4th of July right around the corner. Christmas only a few months away. Thanksgiving right around the block. To keep us compliant with our oppression, give us faulty and empty optimism, put a smile on our face and a frown on our pockets. Christmas is the worst out of all of them. I saw some of y'all shuffling y'all seats. Can I put y'all on something? Can I put y'all on something? I can stand up for this one. Let me get the podium for this one. Let me get the podium. Let's thank the mighty black woman and the mighty black brother. Give them a mighty black hand. Give them a mighty black hand. I didn't think the podium gonna be this tall. Man. Apologies. I am vertically challenged. Vertically challenged. Christmas is not even mentioned in the biblical context, not once. Take your Bible app out and search Christmas. 0 results. Why do they still today depict Jesus as a melanin deficient being with lice and no rhythm when they know he had to be a brother with more soul and melanin than a Kendrick Lamar album? Why you got your child sitting on a random man's lap? Excuse me, my apologies. Not a stranger's lap, Santa Claus' lap. You got your child sitting on Santa Claus' lap in the middle of a mall telling a complete stranger all your personal business. What happened to stranger danger? I thought we teach the kids not to talk to strangers. And I know kids gonna tell it all. They ain't holding nothing back. You working 2 jobs, 2 credit cards, and door dashing to give your child the best Christmas ever. It's the most wonderful time of the year. For who? White folks? They exploit us for our hard-earned black dollars and labor. Then you give credit to an obese, melanin-deficient white man for all your hard black work and contributions. Santa got you them shoes. Santa got you that new jacket. Santa bought you that toy. What? Santa dropped all this off to the crib? When Santa get a house key? That's with no chimney. We can't even afford rent. How we gonna drop some bread on the chimney? That sounds like breaking and entering to me. That's pushing your child to believe in the white savior complex. The only white people can save, help provide for, and liberate black people. That's why so many of us today depend on white solutions for black problems. Got the kids going on the Easter egg hunt. Saying the Easter bunny gonna lay some eggs for the kids. What's another word for a bunny? Come on, y'all done seen Looney Tunes. What's Bugs Bunny? What kind of animal is he? A rabbit. How a bunny or a rabbit gonna lay some eggs for the kids when rabbits can't even physically lay eggs? Don't make no type of sense. Then white folks want you to spend all that money on their candy, fattening their pockets. If you're gonna give me a lie, you gotta give me a better lie than that. Thanksgiving ain't nothing but a highlight reel of white folks killing non-white individuals for the forceful acquisition of land and resources. Black or African people were still enslaved during the first Thanksgiving. The Pilgrims slaughtered the indigenous people in droves. It was called the Trail of Tears. What did we have to be thankful for during the first Thanksgiving? White domination over black folks? Spending all your hard-earned black dollars on a turkey that you're going to choke on because your auntie was trying a new recipe that day. Look at your neighbor and say, get auntie out the kitchen. Black folk ain't got no business celebrating the 4th of July. The founding fathers of this country said, give me liberty or give me death against British oppression. The founding fathers of the so-called American dream for white folks, but a hell of a nightmare for black folks. One of the founding fathers, Benjamin Franklin, who drafted the Declaration of Independence, spoke eloquent and passionate words such as life and liberty in the pursuit of happiness, while at the same time owning and selling enslaved Africans. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, who said all men are created equal, James Madison, and other founding fathers who owned slaves, claimed the 4th of July as being the most patriotic and glorious day in history. What's so glorious about it? Our ancestors were enslaved during the first 4th of July. We ain't getting no independence. We got chattel slavery, epigenics, eugenics, black codes, the war on drugs, medical experimentation and malpractice, the crack era, redlining, Jim Crow, and innumerable other racial caste systems. The sooner we think and act critically about these white holidays, the closer we get to black liberation, family. On the spiritual side, let's get serious here. I know I've been cracking jokes. Let's get serious. Racial caste systems have sadly caused some of our people to be inflicted with a disease, an ailment that's more infectious than a common cold. This disease has hindered some of our people from spiritual and internal liberation, since your internal well-being subsequently affects your external well-being and actions. This disease has caused many of our people to no longer have the inclination to pick up the fighting spirit our ancestors had. They become so passive, accepting, and wanting to assimilate and integrate rather than be self-sufficient, self-reliant, and have self-preservation as a people. Since every group of people has its own wants, needs, interests, and concerns. This disease that I'm describing is coonery. So y'all gonna act like y'all know a cooner too. Ain't no wrong with it. Hey, some of y'all done had y'all years of coonery. It's gonna be all right. You see, it's not a disgrace to once have been a coon. It's a disgrace to remain a coon. Malcolm X had his years of Malcolm Little had his years of coonery before he became Malcolm X. You see, a coon is any black or African individual who goes against the progression or betterment of their own people, or focuses on the best interests of non-black people before their own people who have been suffering for centuries. Supreme Court Justice Member Clarence Thomas, coon. The Mayor of New York, Eric Adams, coon. DJ Academics, Herschel Walker, Chris Rock, Candace Owens, any black man or woman who supports Donald Trump because he gave us a stimulus check instead of reparations, Doja Cat, having the crabs in the barrel mentality. Any black man or woman who reports or snitches on the good black people, the freedom fighters who selling me EBT card and food stamps so I can save a little something on my grocery bill. You snitching on the EBT card sellers? Coon. Look at your neighbor and say, stop the coonery. All skin folk ain't kin folk. Everybody can't come to the promised land. If you can tell the difference between a fork, a knife, and a spoon, then you can tell the difference between being black and being a coon. We need to think critically and bring an immediate cease to all forms of coonery. We need to regain and re-strengthen our sense of community. Like I always say, it doesn't take a thorough historical observation. The most minimal historical observation proves with complete and utter certainty that we have always thrived as a people when our sense of community was intact. We were locked in when it came to black power. Because we don't need black recognition. We don't need black representation in white spaces. We need black power. Owning, operating, and controlling our own businesses, schools, banks, stores, programs, provided services, trades, and other efforts. Ancient African civilizations, dynasties, kingdoms, and queendoms, because the sisters was out here running things too, which helped shape, build, and teach the modern world today. Everybody liked to talk about Black Wall Street, but we had a grand sense of Black Wall Street across the nation in almost every state. But we need to pinpoint how we lost our sense of community and were taught to have the individualistic mindset, how we adopted these maladaptive and dysfunctional behaviors, so we can understand why some of us have fallen victim to the crabs in the barrel mentality. Like I said earlier, chattel slavery, black codes, Jim Crow, epigenics, the war on drugs, the crack era, the wealth gap, highways, menticide, mass incarceration, medical experimentation and malpractice, lynchings, black women dying disproportionately in hospitals while giving birth, black men being emasculated for centuries. After all this has been forced upon our people on an international global aspect for centuries, you don't expect us to be divided and face discord to some degree? We need a new approach, a new appraisal, new ideas, new methods, and new coordinated plans of action. We can't depend on the government and forces who caused our problems and plight to do right by us when they have a history of never doing so. The freedom fighter, the mighty black woman, Ashana Shakur, said, nobody in the world, nobody in history has ever gotten their freedom by appealing to the moral sense of the people who were oppressing them. Malcolm X, revolutions are never based upon negotiations. Revolutions are never based upon any kind of tokenism whatsoever. Revolutions are never based upon that which is begging a corrupt society or corrupt system to accept us into it. Revolutions overturn systems. Some of y'all so-called activists and community leaders are a grave disservice to your own people. Y'all too nice. Quick to shake hands with the people causing our plight and frustrations as black people for a good picture and social media post. Shaking hands with politicians and delegates who dance offbeat to popular black songs. Shake hands with a few black folks. Go on the Black Baptist Church tour just to get the black vote. Then they act like they ain't never heard of black folk once they get in office. Y'all know what I'm talking about. You ain't standing on business because activism ain't nice. You got to get mean. You got to get tough. Make some white folks and coons uncomfortable. We need to stop depending on these white-controlled, operated, and facilitated schools, educational programs, and other white efforts to educate your black child. Based off history, would you expect a Nazi to properly educate a Jew? Israel to properly educate the Palestinians? Russia to properly educate Ukraine? So why are you expecting white educational institutions and programs to properly educate your black child? I don't have any children myself. Hopefully I will one day in the future. But I spend a lot of my time at schools and community centers. These young black boys and girls are encouraged to be illiterate. They can't read and write. And if they can, they can't do it to the appropriate academic level for their age. I've seen 10-year-olds who can't properly add and subtract, being pushed to the next grade because the school doesn't want to hurt their feelings, or because the school wants to make their numbers look good. They're setting them up for failure. 16-year-old seventh graders. 16-year-old seventh graders whose vocabulary, vernacular, and daily word choice in their daily speech will make you think they in fourth grade, but the young brother growing a mustache so you can tell he about to get his driver's license soon. You got time to check the Shade Room. Oh. You got time to check Zeus Network, Baddies, Bad Boys Club, Real Housewives of Atlanta. But you ain't got time to teach your black child these new methods to liberate the people? You ain't missed a hoop session in years. You at the gym every weekend. You on your game playing your PS5 and you got an Xbox. Designer shoes from designer brands, the same racist brands that done called you all type of niggas. But you ain't got time to teach your black child about liberation. Somebody look at your black tastic neighbor and say, get your priorities in line. Look at your other neighbor and say, the ancestors are disappointed. In conclusion, for these new approaches and methods to reach liberation, you can check out my Black Tastic Knowledge Self-Board game, my novel, my online book club, my self-published novel, clothing, the work I do at the Ross Center right on Post Road, the heart of the city, east side, the best side. My clothing, my upcoming event next month, an event that ain't never been done before. We got everything, all that in the Black Tastic bag of chips. It's going to change the game. Chairman Fred Hampton quoted Minister of Defense Huey P. Newton by saying, power is the ability to define phenomena and make it act in a desired manner. Soon as we begin to think, then subsequently act critically about what's afflicting our people, we'll reach our black utopia and flourish. That's all I got due to time. Y'all have a Black-tastic day. I ain't that small. I ain't know
brother. That's what it's all about.
I'm here to tell you. Brother Jamal was in his bag. Was he not? He was in his bag. He called us out on some coonery. That's what that's what he did. He called us out. Some of y'all can relate. Y'all can relate to what he was talking about. Thank you again, Brother Jamal Nelson, for speaking. And up next, I'm going to introduce another one of our amazing speakers. We have Aisha Wesley, who is affectionately called Isha. She is an Indianapolis, Indiana native in many capacities with her community. As executive director and co-founder of Minority Recovery Collective, Inc., also known as Mercy, and first national vice president for the Center for African American Recovery Development. She strives to ensure that those who identify as BIPOC or marginalized have access to recovery resources that are done in top quality and in care. Aisha is an advocate for recovery, non-for-profit infrastructures, non-traditional stress and harm reduction efforts, and the revitalization of impacted communities. Can we please welcome Aisha Wesley?
No more pain. After all this trouble, over land and sea, I see a new world for me. What type of people are we to be? Living in a spirit with a mind that's free. After all this trouble, over land and sea, I see a new world for me. Now, really quick for us, can we do an exercise? I want you to smell a rose through your nose with me. You ready? Now blow out a candle. Smell some sweet potato pie. Blow out a candle. Smell your favorite perfume or cologne. Now before you blow out your candle, let's make a wish that we get to taste the fruits of Black liberation within our enjoyable lifetimes. Now let's blow out our candle. Thank you. Now, when I was a little girl, I wanted to be a civil rights leader. Now, I've traveled all across the continental U.S., spreading Dr. Jonathan Lofgren et al.'s principles and definition of Black recovery. Now, my favorite of all of the principles, and it just so happens to be number 7, is that recovery is a dimension of freedom. So when I heard that the topic was going to be about critical thinking and Black liberation, you know, I got excited. And I do want to take a moment and thank all those who have nominated me to give a message. I really appreciate you, because it's this. I'm free. And oh, am I hated for it. I've been a stranger in my own homeland, cast aside by blood relatives that I thought was family. They tried to steal Hallville from me. Oh, but you know, I understand. I understand the value of riverside property. I understand that I can create just about anything that I so desire, and I get to choose when and with whom I share my resources with. But most importantly, I'm hated because I applied the understanding that critical thinking comes with partners, such as action. And yes, it's cute. Or hold on, I'll go back, just so that we understand that critical thinking does indeed come with buddies, and its name is action. Because we say, so as a man thinketh, so is thank you. So it's been pretty to have the courage to do something new, even in spite of my own experiences or my previous understandings. But I've also had to recognize that every time I make a choice of inaction, that is indeed a choice, and inaction is an type of action. I am free, but I'm thankful for my ancestors who released me and my lineage from the chains of chastile slavery. just so that I could have the opportunity to release the ones from my mind. Now, if anybody was subscribing, transcribing, or paying close attention, I want you to go back to every time I said, or to the first time I said, I am free. Because you'll notice that we need to change every I to we, because our brother, our dear brother Malcolm once said, if we change I to we, illness does indeed become wellness. Thank you.
Wow. Y'all had a singing performance. We didn't even know that was going to happen. I didn't know. All right. So up next, I would like to welcome Lashate M. Grayson. She is a multifaceted, purpose-driven woman of God from Gary, Indiana. Okay, some 219s out there. Yeah, okay. On a mission to help leaders feel less alone. As an influential organizational strategist, national award-winning speaker, and instructional designer dedicated to building culture, she has made significant impacts in various fields. By day, she serves as the director of leadership and culture for Phi Alpha Delta Law Association, overseeing leadership development efforts for over 300,000 members annually. By passion, she is the owner of Carrying the Weight educational consulting firm and the founder of women's fitness community, Black Girls Who Live. Lashate has positively impacted over 50 organizations annually and has spoken to over 9,000 college students each year. Her list of partnerships includes, but is not limited to, okay, come on, don't limit this Black woman, NASA, Walmart, the Ohio State University, Clark, Atlanta University, and more. She is a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated with dual degrees in management and organizational leadership and has a master's degree in higher education. She is truly on a mission to make organizations and people better. Can y'all give it up for Lashate Grayson?
Oh, y'all get into the set. Okay, my living room needs to look like this. Let me find out Murdoch got a little coin. Who, you pay, and then you got the production team. It's giving Friday Night Live. And y'all got to see me. Y'all look good. You're looking good. I thought so. You see me? No. Get into it. Get into it, okay? Because and that brother, he gave y'all a whole sermon. Listen, I said, okay, I'm just here to give y'all the sides. He gave y'all the meat. So just understand that. But seriously, y'all, it feels so good to be in this space. I just feel y'all energy, right? Like different shades of blackness, us being in a space to have critical conversations. I just can't explain it. You know, polished lady went over my bio, and I've done some great things, but I was excited to be in this space. I was excited to be in this space because I'm in a lot of white spaces. I'm gonna be very honest. I've been in spaces where I always had to work twice as hard to prove myself. I always had to go above and beyond. Not get 1 degree, why don't you got 3 degrees? Because you had to prove that you deserve to be in the space. And so I feel like this space that was curated right here, I'm with my people. I can laugh, I can joke, and y'all get it. Y'all get it. Okay, talk back. Well, y'all get it, right? Okay, look, making sure. But I'm with my people. And so it's a different type of liberation and experience that you have when you are with the people that know how it feels to always keep fighting. As a Black woman, you see multiple Black women that you will see in and out. We are always fighting. My name is Lashate. You know how many times I gotta fight to tell people to say my name right? Not Latasha, Lashate. That was real. I said, look, we felt that. But I always get to think about this notion of Black liberation, right? Black liberation says that we should be excited We should be celebrating. We should be free. And then you have white supremacy that says, oh, we'll give them equality, but put conditions on it. Black liberation says, oh, yeah, we're going to fight for justice and we're going to do all these things. Then you got white supremacy responding saying, how about we put systems in place to keep them apart? And so it's always this person knocking on our door. It has been 250 plus years, so they say, that we have been free. But I think that I have been fighting still. These are some things I feel like I've been fighting about. If I can be honest, this is space. I don't believe in safe, but we a little brave. I feel like I've been fighting for my voice to constantly be heard. I feel like I've been fighting to prove that I deserve just as much money as a white man, if more. I feel like I've been fighting to sometimes to get people who look like me to understand that I'm the same person fighting for you. I'm the same person in these rooms that is advocating for your voice to be heard. You see, let's be clear. I am a black woman that sits at a high level, and so sometimes people like to think that I am not for them. And that is the issue that we have with liberation. This series is about having critical conversations, and I think a lot of times we're not talking to each other. Martin Luther King say, our lives begin to end the moment that we become silent about the things that matter. So what matters to you? And why are we not having conversations with each other? The first step that we have to do, because I got to give you something. I know everybody's giving you all these praises and they telling you all these historical things. But the first step is to learn to unlearn. I have learned some problematic things. I love Gary. I love where I come from. I love my mother. My mother had me at 16. And so when we talk about a woman trying to figure out how to raise a child, it is some things I have learned from her that I had to unlearn. The first one is how to ask for help. We can't have conversations about how we elevating the black experience if we're not having conversations on how we need to help each other, how I need help. We can't have those conversations. And so learn to unlearn those things. Another thing I had to unlearn is it is okay to ask a question if you don't know. I think we get so wrapped up in big words and I don't know what this means. When I went to college, I didn't know half of the things I know now. And I was too scared to ask. So I sat there and act like I knew. We are in a space where people look like us, and we shouldn't be sitting in spaces where we have to act like we know. The next thing I think that you all should really reflect on is what position and seat do you hold? We can't elevate the black experience and liberation if we're not elevating each other. I hear this talk about we support black businesses and we support all these things. But I tell my students all the time, only you know what you truly are doing. Because we're in a time of social media, so we'll put things on blast and we'll say that we're doing for validation. And so we have to be intentional with elevation. Last thing I really want to talk about, because I got to hit on this. I wouldn't be right if I didn't. We have to have critical conversations about anti-blackness. We have to talk about black people and the intersectionalities of a black person. Because if they're a trans person, are we not supporting? If they identify as queer, are we not supporting? We can't say that we support black movements when it's beneficial to us. And so you have to take a second to learn people's lived experiences and why they view things in the way that they view. We have been raised to constantly fight and fight and fight. And so when someone is trying to help you, a lot of times we get defensive. And so why don't we have conversations about getting to know each other? I just told you all I had to unlearn so many different things. I'm a Christian, but I'm a little gangster too. So don't try me. Look, I just turned Murdoch. Listen, me and God, we have to have a conversation regularly because people try me and forget where I'm from. But anywho, stay focused. So you see, I get off back. See, she got me off track. Stay focused. But anywho, I truly had to understand that every person is different. I think people like to categorize
black people as we are all together. No, we are not. We have different lived experiences. Lived experiences are perspectives. Lived experiences could be you have a single mom. It is so many things that shape you who you are. And the diversity is the fact. I can prove everything about you. And so when we're thinking about having critical conversations, learn to unlearn. That's first. Intersectionalities of blackness. Because we can't want blackness when it's beneficial. Ask the questions you want to answer. You want answers to. That's 3. I got one more. Do the self-work. I think we don't spend enough time on ourselves. The longest relationship you will have, I'm telling you, is with yourself. I don't know about marriage. I don't know about your kids. With yourself. And so when we don't spend enough time by ourselves, we create a problem. Bob Marley talks about this notion of to have liberation, we have to start with our minds. It starts first with unlearning to unlearn. White people and white supremacists will have us thinking that we are in a cycle that we cannot get out of. And so really starting with your mind. This is the space. After we have these conversations, after these women come after Murdoch come, ask someone a question that you always want to know. Ask them their name. Ask them maybe the question of what is something you had to unlearn. That's a great way to start a critical conversation. My name is Lasha Tay Grayson, and I appreciate you allowing me to share just some bits and nuggets to be in this space. I truly believe that my assignment in life is to help people unpack the things that they are carrying. And as black people, in order for us to be liberated, we have to lessen that load. Thank you.
I should take Grayson didn't come to play with ya. Did y'all feel that? I already knew when she came up here. Woo, she was gonna work us out for sure. And now I'm going to introduce our final speaker for the evening. We have Tierra Howlett. As a recent graduate of Indiana University, Tierra Howlett has been a lifelong advocate for social justice and is on the path to aid and eliminate some of the systematic barriers which negatively impact black people and other marginalized groups of people. Born and raised in Indianapolis, Indiana, Howlett has worked with at-risk youth and various community organizations to help ensure local community needs are met. She has been doing the work since middle school. Among some of her distinguished accomplishments, Howlett created a Bill of Rights resolution alongside other Central Indianapolis youth in 2017 to address the key issues youth face within the city. This resolution was passed with the Indiana General Assembly, City of Lawrence, and Common Council, and the City of Indianapolis. Y'all clap that up. That's good. That's good. During her sophomore year at Indiana University, Howlett founded a campus organization, Black Collegiates, Inc., to assist black and brown scholars with political advocacy and civic engagement. Howlett then went on to obtain degrees in political science and African American and African diaspora studies from Indiana University, Bloomington. Alongside from this, Howlett has also served on various boards and coalitions, currently including the Indiana Coalition for Youth Justice and the Marion County Youth Violent Prevention Coalition, where she serves as Policy Task Force Lead. Howlett was named a 2022 recipient of the Soros Justice Youth Advocacy Fellowship with Open Society, in which she founded Lady Justice and I, an organization dedicated to uplifting and elevating the voices and stories of those impacted by criminal justice systems.
Good evening, everybody. I'm so blessed and honored to be here, and thank you so much to the Polished Lady for that amazing introduction. And I just want to know, has everybody been having a good time tonight? Like, it's been so many phenomenal black people up here on this stage. I'm like, how can I follow some of this? But I want to be real with y'all. I'm coming here to talk about how politics is crucial, especially for critical thinking and our liberation. And I know in our community that can still be a taboo conversation, but we're just going to sit here, we're going to chill, we're going to listen and vibe and understand that this is a safe space. This is a safe place no matter what your ideals and all of those are. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for, so let me just put that out there already. I just want to be real and honest with us all, because right now is a crucial, crucial time for our liberation and for our just overall well-being within this country and within this world. So I want to start off by saying, when I thought about Black liberation, and that's something that I've spent time studying, I dedicated my life study and work to understanding this concept of Black liberation, especially from a policy and political lens, because I've always understood that even if we don't pay attention to politics, if we don't do politics, politics is doing us every single day. Every single day. So almost everything that you do on a day-to-day basis, whether you think about it, whether you know about it, politics has probably in some way, shape, or form impacted that. So I want to talk a little bit more about how we can understand this better and how we can kind of equip ourselves to being more engaged so that we do not fall behind and that we do not turn back the timetables. Excuse me, not us turning back the timetables, so that our white supremacists and all of these people in power do not turn back the timetables on us. We have to pay attention right now. So when I think about Black liberation, I immediately thought about quite a few phenomenal Black people, around the world, but also those within this country who have made a difference and an impact. So that includes Huey P. Newton, Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey. Those three men came to my mind immediately when I thought about this concept, because I believe they were authentic in their understanding and in their works of Black movements and being able to change and revitalize, our communities across the entire diaspora. And so when I also thought about Black liberation, I kind of went on Google, but I didn't really like that answer because I wanted to go into a little bit more detail, seeing from a Black perspective, what do we think Black liberation is? And so one of the definitions I found was from the Black Roots Alliance, and I'm going to pull up that definition so that I can say it word for word. But it says, this movement envisions a world where Black communities are connected around a Black policy, working together to elevate social, racial, and economic consciousness, and where Black people can live their best lives. And so one thing that ties that quote and the three individuals that I spoke about earlier is their connection to policy, is their ability and understanding the importance that policy and all of that plays in terms of Black movements and in terms of Black liberation. And so with that, I want us to kind of think about history for a moment. I'm sure many of us, if not all of us in this room, have gone through American history classes, as that is a requirement for a lot of different, schools around the country. But I want to first go back to 1964. Everybody knows what happened during that time. That was the Civil Rights Movement. But then I also want to go back to 1865 during the 13th Amendment, where, quote unquote, we were free. And then going back to 1787 when the Constitution was signed into law, and then 1776 when the Declaration of Independence was created. Only one of those documents really served Black people. And I'm going to be honest with you, 1865 was not the one that truly, truly impacted us the way that it needed to. Because not only did that law turn into Jim Crow, it turned into so much more oppression that we're still having to unpack today. And so I want to also caution you guys to think about present day. I'm sure you guys have heard about some of the things that have arisen in national politics, Project 2025, these debates between Biden and Trump. And like I said, I'm not telling you who to vote for. I'm just telling you to be cautious and equipped with the knowledge necessary to make the sound decision, to think critically about what your decision will be and what the next years could be for our communities. And I want to just be real with you all that specifically Project 2025 is one that I will focus on, because conservatives are trying to take over the entire country. And that's not good for any of us sitting in this room, regardless of what your beliefs or ideals may be. we're already seeing some of the things being turned back. A lot of emphasis on discriminatory practices of black women supporting black women, why we can't give each other grants. Like a lot of issues with, even in the state of Indiana, like businesses can discriminate against us still based on how our hair is styled. And then other cautioning voice for you guys today. If you have any questions, I'm here too. So please do not hesitate to reach out to anybody you feel safe and comfortable with. But understand that this moment right now is absolutely crucial. As a political scientist, I can tell you that while God says to not live in fear, I am not very thrilled about how I feel what this country is going to look like, especially for us in the coming years. And I say that at 34 weeks pregnant, growing a son who will be living in this environment. So I want to caution everybody, despite what you all think, just think critically about this time and what it actually means to live in this space right now, but also think about the future and the impacts that it could have for not only yourself, but your children and your children's children and so forth and so on. Politics is so important and necessary, and I understand that it was never meant for us to participate in this system. But because we are a part of this system, because they continue to play us every day, we need to stay educated and aware. And so I want to just leave you all with that. Just be real with you, be honest, and just be vulnerable. Like, we don't have time to play. We don't have time to sit back and relax. They're unfolding all this stuff while we being comfortable sitting back and relaxing. So please stay aware. Please stay informed. And again, like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to talk to me. I'm here. Let's talk to everybody. Let's stop the taboo traditions of what politics is like, because it impacts our daily lives. It really does. But I want to thank all of y'all for coming out today. And I'm looking forward to continuing this conversation and just seeing how we can take back our power within policy, within politics, to truly, truly come to this place of understanding what our liberation looks like and actually walking in it. So thank y'all.
Have y'all been enjoying the experience? The conversation was real, wasn't it? Liberation is happening right here in front of us. And I really would like to thank LaShante, Aisha, and Tamise. What else we got back there? And Aisha, for sure, for leading the conversation. And Tamise Cross, thank you for speaking, because I feel like I'm going to be real with y'all. Can I be real? Okay, I'm going to be real with y'all. I know Brother Murdoch said, I took a 2-week break, and even coming here today, this is like my first public thing in a long time. And this is hard. This was hard for me, even though this is my love. I love to conversate with you guys. I love to be in the community with y'all. But it also was so freeing to come back into a space like this and see all of our lights shine, which elevated mine. You know what I'm saying? So y'all fed me today, and I'm grateful to be in an atmosphere where I could be accepted and also a part of this phenomenal journey. And that wouldn't have happened if Brother Murdoch and Jamal Nelson didn't say, hey, we want to have you here. So I want to thank them. And then also say that Brother Murdoch, Anthony Murdoch, that is, we first met in 2020, like after the pandemic ended. Yeah, after the pandemic ended, we were on one of my first series that I was annually hosting, and I said, wow. He got up there, he said, I'm gonna be the first powerpreneur, and then everything else after that led, I was like, yep, you are. Yep, you sure is. And just to have seen his elevation and just the conversations and the spaces that he holds for Black people and all of us in general, that's a man to be honored. Like, I really feel like Murdoch for president. I'm going to say that 100 times over. Murdoch for president. And without further ado, I'm going to let the man do what he does best. And can y'all clap it up for Brother Anthony Murdoch?
Peace and blessings. Give yourselves a hand clap real quick. I'm locked back in. So I got a time limit. So I'm about to clock in, get to this, and then we go on. You know what I mean? Okay. Refusing to acknowledge the power is rap spelled out, but only if you allow their narrative to define the news we choose to validate. Swiper the fox will never stop swiping at the strange fruit hanging from the trees of systems that do justice for the criminals in gray suits and crispy white shirts, because Fox News knows it ain't news that there's at least 59 ways to kill a nigga. And as we dangle from these justice, singing spirituals that embrace sacred ceremonies, our stories are twisted into lullabies that are lacking in loyalty to self-love and paints the context of our past, the promise of our present, and the potential in our future as lackluster. And this is why I say, take time to know your story, because good things take time. And when it takes time, it's probably. Thus, words that shape your story are the bonds we can use as a basis to continue investing in the rebuilding of Black Wall Street and more beautiful, bold, and Black futures that are far from the myth of white supremacy and the unmitigated gall of anti-Blackness. From scribing our success stories to constructing skyscrapers that break glass ceilings, straddling the stratosphere of unimagined universes, let us continue to pursue our duty. Let us continue to discover the depth of our duty, design a greater day, a day that loves the night that glows like the moon with melanin, a day that values the volume of the vowels we speak, that connects consonants to covenants, all the while chartering a calendar of creation. 56 nights was crazy, but the God in us needed 6. And on the 7th day, she rested. Rested in the same revolution as a Black woman whose skin, words, and name are milk chocolate like a Hershey bar. So let us taste the rainbow of freedom, not like the Skittles that trigger shots from fake cops and narcissistic neighborhood watchmen, but like the kisses wrapped in paper that shines of aluminum, containing all the fantastic flavors, from milk to dark and everything in between, like the expansive nature of the best love, which is Black love. For it is self-love that fuels the revolution, and it is an experience inspired by our loyalty to the sisters and siblings that will fuel our collective liberation. Ashe. Good evening, y'all. My name is Anthony Murdoch II, but I go by Murdoch. I'm a purpose-driven, action-oriented servant leader, proud product of the city. I'm a lawyer by trade. I'm a business coach by occupation and a storyteller by passion. And ultimately, I'm in the business of becoming the greatest powerpreneur that the world has ever seen. And powerpreneurship is the art of strategically leveraging a person's greatest asset. Everybody say story. Black stories are the assets that break generational curses, build generational wealth, and bridge the racial wealth gap. And it's when we leverage the power in our stories, even when it gets gory, it leads to profit surely. And the profit I'm talking about is not the change in our pockets, but the change that we can make collectively in our communities. That's what it means to make it make sense, and sensational impact. Come on, sister. All across the come on, give a hand up to my mama in the front row. You hear me? Lock back in though. So I got 3. Everybody say 3. I got 3 things to do. Okay. I'm gonna inspire. Everybody say inspire. I'm gonna educate, and I'm gonna empower. That's the 3 things I'm gonna do. Y'all got a stand-up comedian and Brother Jamal. Get that brother another hand clap, please. I'm talking about, boy, he been waiting on that since last year. So y'all got that. Great content. I think about Dick Gregory. And I think about the way in which Dick Gregory leveraged comedy to articulate truth. Because the funniest jokes make sense. Y'all picking up what I'm putting down? So great comedy. And then please give a mighty hand clap to the 4 Black women that spoke today. From Tamise to Tierra. Give them all a hand clap, please. Those 4 sisters did a sensational job at speaking to the intersection of critical thinking and Black liberation. And did y'all enjoy that blessing at the beginning from Tamisha? Give Tamisha a hand clap too, please. You said something. You said, we can't talk about freedom without talking about God. Yeah. And a lot of people got devilish perspectives on liberation. So we're going to do something solid tonight. Okay. So I got my book, because this is called a what kind of series? Yeah, there's another L word in there. It's not lost. Lecture. Come on. So if you got a piece of paper and a pen, you got a pen and a notepad or Twitter fingers that type fast, make sure you tag me, get them out. Because I'm going to talk my talk, but I'm going to give you some concrete takeaways too. So can I start with the inspiration, please? Would you mind? Okay. So we're going to page 9. This book is called, in the loft, I got it. It's called America Goddamn, Violence, Black Women, and the Struggle for Justice by Dr. Treva Lindsay. And a mighty black woman got me this book, Charisma McMurray, who's also an author. Give her a hand clap, please. And this book is the bedrock for my lecture today. And I want to give you all a paragraph from the intro to contextualize my commentary. Because a text without context is a pretext for what? For conning people. Come on, for conning. And I can't con us out of an incredible opportunity. Here's the book in a nutshell. America Goddamn also explores, everybody say, unlivable living. This is a black, life-centered riff on the gender theorist Judith Butler's concept of unlivable lives. For black women, this is good. This is terrible, but it's good. For black women and girls, living is most emphatically felt at the intersection of poverty and economic deprivation. Dr. Lindsay explains that capitalism wreaks a particular havoc on their lives. This forcing of these unlivable lives and for black women and girls is a form of state-sanctioned violence. This book speaks to what Lasha State mentioned earlier, these powerful intersections, this multiple marginalization. And that's the inspiration for today's conversation. Everybody brought their own unique perspective. But the whole point of this series is to show that black liberation is real. It is not a dream. It is not something you see when you close your eyes. It is something you experience when you wake up. Y'all picking up what I'm putting down? And this book did an amazing job at vividly explaining what this means in real life. Dreams become real things. All right, this is another takeaway. Dreams become real things when we leverage skills for success. Dreams become real things when we leverage skills for success. Last year, the theme for the talk was Meet the Moment. It spoke to punctuality, preparation, and leveraging power. Each of these are skills that when used in the right venue can produce black liberation. Now today we're going to talk about critical thinking. This is a skill. When we solve problems, when we learn how to win, because we can't afford to lose, and think critically, we might be able to experience black liberation. And so tonight, it's my job, my duty, to speak to this intersection. So again, the inspiration, Dr. Treva Lindsay, America Goddamn. This intersection between violence, black women, and the struggle for justice. Now, after we are inspired, a lot of people don't dream by any means because they ain't seen something worth dreaming about. So I got a little paragraph to give some context. But now I got to educate. Next takeaway. Y'all ready? You cannot engage in liberation using the white man's language. And I'm not speaking to our favorite white guy friend. I'm speaking to the intersection of racism and sexism. We cannot pursue liberation that is beautiful, bold, and black using a language that's rooted in a message and idea that is not appreciated in our minds, bodies, and spirits. So we're going to learn the language of liberation tonight. But guess what else? We have got to expand our vocabulary, because there's a vocabulary to being a revolutionary. And so tonight, this book, The Bedrock for Education, I have to give y'all some education on some terms, because I'm tired of us tweeting. I'm tired of us writing articles. I'm tired of us espousing videos using terms that we do not know the meaning of, because it sounds sexy, but it's really sick business. So can I list some terms, please, sister? Term number one. These all come from Dr. Treva Lindsay. Again, America, goddamn. Get the book on Amazon. Support a black woman. First term, get out your piece of paper pencil. We're going to talk about white supremacy, capitalism, and patriarchy. White supremacy, capitalism, and patriarchy. Y'all ready? Dr. Lindsay says, what happened to captive African women embodied what racial slavery actually meant. Denigrating ideas about blackness and womanhood formed during the transatlantic slave trade. So again, the transatlantic slave trade gave context to these terms of white supremacy, capitalism, and patriarchy. She goes on to say that and converged into a powerful force in the lives of Africans. Race, blackness, and gender substantively evolved from the early years of the transatlantic slave trade through the 1800s. Watch this. In ways that reinforced the idea, listen, that black women and girls were disposable. So if we're talking about multiple levels of marginalization, these things didn't start yesterday, did they? No, they started during the transatlantic slave trade, which we know, but here's the crucial part. Prior, a white man not knocking at our door, but busting through our home, did we treat black women and girls like they were disposable? Heck to the no. So I want to contextualize this term on patriarchy for tonight. I'm not on here talking about white people bad because I hate white people. It's because black women and girls are not disposable. Are y'all picking up what I'm putting down? And some of us don't speak about the power of white supremacy strong enough because we believe that black women and girls are disposable. The codification of anti-blackness led to gender-specific ways of maintaining white supremacy and patriarchy. As long as we believe that black women and girls are disposable, we will continue to maintain the systems of patriarchy and white supremacy. Are we clicking? Number two, I'm going to talk about anti-blackness and racism. These are terms we hear all of the time, but I want to define them, all right? Anti-blackness and racism. And this is all from a black woman. This is not Brother Murdoch's definitions. It's a black woman's definition. Many definitions of racism exist, most of which account for the ways that racial prejudice and power converge to facilitate discriminatory practices, beliefs, systems, and institutions. All right, what's the takeaway? Prejudice and power converge. At the core of the definition of racism is speaking to racial prejudice and power coming together. That's number one. Number two, it's important to understand racism, and particularly anti-black racism, is a matter of, everybody say, life or death. There are real consequences to racism. Last but not least, Dr. Lindsay quotes a geographer and prison scholar, Ruth Wilson Gilmore, who defines racism as this: the state-sanctioned or extra-legal production and exploitation of ground, these some words, of ground differentiated vulnerability to premature death. I don't know what all that means, but what I do know is that what it's sharing is that racism kills. And guess what? Its killing is endorsed by the state. When it says state sanction, the state gave permission. The state codified it. The state said yes, yes, and amen. Nasty work. And that's what we can talk about freedom if you don't talk about God. It's saying yes and yes, amen to this. That's not the God I serve. But I'm going to get to that a little bit later. Anti-blackness is a more pointed and arguably precise term for the violence and unlivable living black people endure. Last two pieces on anti-blackness. Anti-blackness is a theoretical framework that illuminates society's inability to recognize our humanity, the disdain, disregard, and disgust for our existence. Anti-blackness is about the debasement of black humanity, utter indifference to black suffering, and the denial of black people's right to exist. Crucial to anti-blackness is debasement, indifference, and denial. Last but not least, when we decenter anti-blackness in our understandings of the modern world, we willfully ignore one of its important and enduring features. What does that mean? If we are attempting to characterize the state of society today without articulating that society is anti-black, we do not have a proper understanding of our current society. Colorblind, to be colorblind is racist. That's what that said. Because if I attempt to say something about this world without speaking to the anti-black nature of this world, I do not know this world. So I must see color. Y'all picking up what I'm putting down? Last two terms. Misogynoir, a term coined by Moya Bailey and co-popularized by the Truds on Twitter, describes the anti-black racist misogyny that black women experience. That is misogynoir. It is the anti-black racist misogyny that black women experience. Misogynoir often plays a role in violence and other forms of violation against black girls and women. Its extent in policing, medical health care systems, and mass incarceration. Watch this. A black woman killed by police while sleeping in her bed, does that sound familiar? Will be regarded as a threat because of the particular form of racist misogyny we endure. Breonna Taylor is only seen as a threat because of what? Misogynoir. So if we ever get confused on why, it's because we live in a misogynistic society that doesn't just hate women, they hate black women and girls. So much so that to be asleep is a threat. That's nasty, nasty work. Misogynoir also factors into, watch this, intra-communal gender and sexual violence. So they ain't just white people hating black people. This is in our relationships of our own kind. Can perpetuate misogynoir. Understanding the fear and hatred that people, even other black people, have towards black women and girls is integral to grappling with our vulnerability to violence. Black women over-index as victims of gender and sexual violence, and in most cases, this violence occurs in domestic, intimate, and intra-communal settings. Again, intra-communal within our own community. Last term. Everybody say multiple jeopardy. Am I losing y'all? Black women and girls also experience what Deborah King identifies as multiple jeopardy. The weight of several forms of oppression, such as racism, sexism, poverty, ableism, queerphobia, and transphobia, form an interdependent control system. These systems come together to control black women's minds, bodies, and spirits. Many of the black women and girls she discusses in her book experience multiple marginalization. They experience violence and unlivable living caused by the multiplicative combination of several forms of oppression. When we consider multiple jeopardy, it becomes more apparent why a poor, black, queer, disabled woman might be particularly vulnerable to everything, not anything, but everything, from houselessness to police violence. Last but not least, this vulnerability exists at the intersection of anti-blackness, misogynoir, and multiple jeopardy. Being multiply marginalized, however, and here's the deliverance, all right? The devil is in the details, but so is the deliverance. Y'all ready? Being multiply marginalized, however, can contribute to the emergence of multiple consciousness for justice. To understand how we are multiply situated as devalued and disposable opens up a possibility for struggling for justice in more robust and effective ways. Y'all know what that means? As much as white supremacy, as much as the white man, as much as some of our coons of the same color might hate us, the people
those entities hate the most are best positioned to give us a picture of what black liberation looks like. And that is why you heard and see more black women tonight than brothers. What are you talking about? As a matter of fact, we could not get it done without black women. And why could we not get it done without black women? Not just because of the tropes and spheres that patriarchy places them in, but black women are uniquely situated to experience every oppressive system that exists. And so when we listen to their solutions, we get the best answer. Are y'all picking up what I'm putting down? Now that leads me to the last two elements of education. Y'all still with me, right? And you know what? I'm sorry for going over my time. I'm sorry, I got excited and it's hot. So I'm going to speed up so I can get up off this stage. Two things, all right? Two things. Everybody say black liberation. Yeah, black liberation is a centralized experience. Liberation, period, is a centralized experience. Black liberation is a beautiful, bold, and black kind, a centralized experience. Y'all want to know how you become liberated? Y'all want to know the process to black liberation? Number one, everybody say decolonize. You want talking on this mic like y'all can hear me louder. Y'all need to decolonize your mind. We must decolonize our mind. A lot of us don't believe liberation because somebody told us it was a lie. And a white man don't always come in white faces. But someone made you think you couldn't dream. Someone made you think this wasn't real. And once you decolonize your mind, you can fall in love with a more liberated dream that makes you want to wake up. So first, decolonize your mind. Ready for number two? I told you can't talk about freedom when I talk about God. It ain't us, right? It's not us. What Brother Jamal called it? Melanin deficient. That's a hell of a term. Melanin deficient. We must stop worshiping a green dollar and a white Jesus. After you decolonize your mind, you must stop worshiping a green dollar and a white Jesus. Here's the thing though. I can't stop worshiping a green dollar and a white Jesus until I decolonize my mind. Because I won't even know I'm worshiping a green or a white Jesus if my mind is colonized. And a lot of people are worshiping both because they do not know they are colonized. That's nasty work, ain't it? But after I've decolonized my mind, and after I stop worshiping a white Jesus and a green dollar, everybody say space. I gotta create space. And a lot of people don't have the space they need to express their decolonization and spiritual transformation. That's why we got beautiful, bold black people in prison who have such amazing thoughts but are still incarcerated. Because what do you lack when you're in prison? A number of things, but one of which being space. Don't be nervous being what? Don't be nervous being what? It's what? Space. They keep you in a cell block. And if you want to know the worst parts about prison? Because people talk about prison, never been there before. You can see things. You can see out the bar. It's right there. You can see the space. You just can't go. Crucial to liberation. You ever been in a visiting room before in a prison? Yeah, some of them got windows, don't they? And in the windows, you can see green grass. In the window, you can see sunshine and skies. But can I go and touch that green grass? Can I go and breathe that fresh air? No. I can see the space, but I can't have it. In order to be liberated, after you decolonize your mind, you stop worshiping them fake idols. You need space. Critical thinking. Everybody talked about critical thinking. Critical thinking. Critical thinking. Critical different by definition. Critical thinking by definition. I had to sit down because it's not my definition. Critical thinking is crucial and it's vital. That means it's very important to advancing liberation. Critical thinking is vital. It is very important to advancing liberation. By definition, critical thinking is about reasoning. And according to the Paul Elder framework, there are 3 elements to thinking critically. Number 1, call it elements of thought. All of this is saying, in order for me to start thinking critically, I had to change the way that I rationalize, change the way that I reason. And then after I understand these elements of thought, then I have to understand universal intellectual standards. How do I reason? So not only do I change my rationale, I got to think differently about the rational way that I do. After those elements of and those standards, there are traits. And these universal intellectual traits describe the reasoning that you use. Critical thinking is about reasoning. And if I can shift my reasoning, my rationale, if I can finally start to make it make, I become a well-cultivated critical thinker. Well-cultivated critical thinkers do these 5 things. They raise questions. They gather and assess information. They come to well-reasoned conclusions and solutions. They think. They definitely think. But they think open-mindedly. So don't just think, but think open-mindedly. And last but not least, they communicate effectively. That's the education for tonight. And that was a lot, wasn't it? No, y'all picking up what I'm putting down? That's good. Now here's the piece I'm trying to test. Because it's 7:56. How long I been up here? Because the boy's toasty. I've been up here for 20 minutes? Oh, yeah, we got to shut that down. And now we was back there laughing at everybody else's time, and I'm up here cooked. And I got so much more I want to share. Yeah, that's tough. And I ain't going to. Nah. Never means. As soon as they say take your time, it means go. Look at Keela. Look at Keela in the door. She said, brother, it's time to go. All right, I'll say this last. And I mean it. You say the last thing that they start saying. Boy, I got gems on here too. Opening my bag. All right, I got you. I'm just trying to think about the last one. All right, look. All I was going to do for empowerment was I was going to connect the dots. Critical thinking and black liberation. And here's what I said. I said, if black liberation is about centralizing the black experience, we must be intentional about which black experience we centralize. And the way in which I'm strategic, intentional, with which experience I centralize is by using critical thinking. The bedrock of black liberation and the foundation for critical thinking are the same thing, reasoning. I can't be liberated if I don't decolonize my mind. I do not think critically if I have not changed the way I reason. So if I want to see the intersection of the two, I've got to improve the way that I reason. Crucial to that, and that reasoning is changing from common sense to critical thinking, from domination to liberation, from who you want to be to who you were made to be. And specifically, that process means you must decenter whiteness. Stop allowing white people to be the core of your reality. We spend too much time in black spaces discussing white people. We spend too much time in black spaces discussing white people. And I'm not talking about your friend that is white. I'm talking about these people, places, and things that are rooted in the disposability. And we cannot talk about liberation if it is that we center. In place of centering whiteness, I would instead encourage you to center the story of the least of these. We know that phrase, white. Yeah, because my Savior came for the least of these. Come on, Doc. And the least of these means black women, black folks who are queer trans, and non-binary. And don't be scared to say it. Black folks who are poor. Black folks who are differently abled. Because guess what? When the least of these can be liberated, we all be liberated. And I'm closing the computer now. I'm really done. Y'all enjoy yourself today? That's good. Last thing I'll say is the process to the intersection of critical thinking and black liberation is decentering whiteness, centering the least of these, and the black man. The black man must remain in motion. A black man who is stuck is good for nobody, including himself. But a black man in motion means something. Now the question becomes, Murdoch, what does it mean for a black man to be in motion? Well, my name is Murdoch, and I'm Murdoch with emotion. So whatever I mean to you is what black men in motion should mean to us. And black man, if someone problematizes your self-love journey, leave them behind. You know, we leave the kids behind, we're gonna leave the coons behind, you hear me? And to Brother Jamal's point, you cannot spell cocoon without coon. No, don't lose me now. I know it's funny, but don't lose me. You cannot spell cocoon without coon. And it's because all butterflies start as caterpillars. And don't be scared to face the coon in your cocoon. Because we all got to start somewhere. And the beauty's in the journey. And the energy we spend judging people on their journey is energy we could have spent getting closer to liberation. Y'all picking up what I'm putting down? Hey, I don't know what else I was supposed to say because I closed it. But hey, I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. This is fire. Amen.
Some questions. We're gonna have the panelists back up here. I'm just waiting for the cheers. Brother Jamal and Brother Murdoch's gonna join us as well. A full production. This a full production. Y'all can't tell us nothing. Black people, whoo, snaps, claps, all of it. Y'all did that. Shout out to Bessie Yagi production. Vision. Bessie Yagi do it. Look at these cheers. Look at this setup. Have y'all been in this room before? Y'all ain't seen this bookshelf here. Y'all ain't seen that art, the light. Come on, bring the vision together. All right, we're ready. Check it for Mike. Mic check 1 2 1 2.
Check 1 2. Mic check 1 2.
y'all. Y'all seen black people do more with less, and here we are. We innovators for a reason. So, thank you everyone who spoke to the 2024 Black Liberation Lecture Series. This is the second, but more to come. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like we were back there talking, and I was like, hey, this is national television worthy. For sure. So, can we get a round of applause one more time? Thank you so much. Yes. Thank you to those who came in person. Thank you to the viewers who were there virtually with us and donating your time and coming out to get this liberation. So, without further ado, I'm going to ask anybody in the audience want to give their questions, comments, concerns? Yes.
Big Mercy, not the little one. Okay. We are a organization that is built on Black and brown folks' mental health. We specialize in substance use disorders. There's plenty to do. Just if you identify as someone who has used a substance, or if you don't, or if you know somebody who has, or if you know somebody who has dealt with the challenges of mental health issues, or if you have a mental health issue, this is home. This is a place. This is a safe space for us. So this is, like I said, it's an organization, which means it's more than one person. It's multiple people. It's an organism within itself. And I want you. I need you.
If you'd like to get in further contact with me, media, Social Brother Jamal, and I'll pop up. For youth, so for the adults, because I give my time and I work at my big cousin's community center named D. Ross. He's a huge community advocate. We're right on 42nd Post Road. If you guys have any unique talents, abilities, qualifications, or skills, we can see if we can get you guys to join not just my effort, but the community center's efforts to help, liberate our community and neighborhoods. You can get at me on my social media, Mall317, my online book club, and catch me at the community center on Post Road.
Both of you are well. Doing City Justice and I, so that'll be Instagram and Facebook platforms. I'm also launching my personal website and personal services soon. So if you're interested in staying connected more politically, policy-wise, but also needing help in storytelling, writing, and all of those things, I will be launching that. And so, how you can
now, I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself. Hey, everybody. My name is Keela McKee. I've actually been your moderator. Blessed to be here. I go by the Polished Lady. And if you guys are ever interested in supporting and joining, I am a journalist. So the best way to support me is by letting us know about your events, what you guys got going on, so that we can bring more awareness and highlight positive stories in our communities. That's what we're all about. And you can follow me on social media at The Polished Lady. That's ThePolishedLady, as a lady should be spelled. And I'm going to let you take it away.
Great question. So one, you can just come up to me here. That's the first step. Even I'm really big on let's just have some conversation. I do have a consultant agency education, carryingtheweight.com. You can look that up as well. Social media, it is my name, lashate.marie. And I believe in liberation from a physical aspect as well. So I've been doing physical events called Black Girls Who Lift. We lift as we climb. And I believe that that is truly what saved my life, to be physically in shape. And once I physically and mentally was in shape, I was able to tackle a lot of things that I was dealing with. So we have Black Girls Who Lift.org as well. And we will be having actually another workout event in August. So, yeah, we have them every quarter. So definitely keep in contact with me, but have a conversation, social media, the websites, but I'm here.
Yeah, to answer the question, the best thing you can do to start your liberation journey is actually do what it is they say it do. Amen.
I like you. Short and simple today. Okay. Good answer.
Mic drop. Mic drop. Is there anyone else in the audience who have any questions? And can we be mindful of those who are live? If they're dropping any questions on the comments, I would like to know. Thank you, production team. You great.
I had a follow-up, not even a question, but a follow-up question to ask yourself. I'm really into reflection, y'all, so I process a lot. But really asking yourself, too, what is it that one person spoke to, or what was that stood out to you that you felt a connection with, that you can kind of start your journey? For me, I'm connected to people, but it's just like, where's some areas that I am struggling in where this person might be able to help me, whether it's like the vernacular or the terms, and I'm not understanding truly the historical pieces that these individuals may share. The criminal justice system, like, I think of this notion that we have to start getting some knowledge, asking people just a question. So I think, yes, sharing all of our information is great. And where is it that you want to go with this? That's the question to really ask yourself.
Don't all sit there and look pretty, because y'all do. Come on, Tasha Mack. So for the people online, the question was asked, how do we keep the conversation going?
How do we keep the conversation going about Black liberation? Or that is a black-tastic question. Black-tastic. I think a few ways you can stay consistent in gaining knowledge itself, learning from the ancestors, applying what the ancestors did to the present, is like-minded individuals, implementing ethno-aggregation. Ethno-aggregation is just finding individuals who are, also Black, have the same passion, drive, focus, and objectives that want to improve overall quality of life in different areas in the aspect form. Because when you're doing it alone, by yourself, it can often feel, you feel alone, feel like it's just you. So find individuals who also have the same, objectives, and read as many books as you can from the ancestors, because a lot of the things we go through today, they've gone through. You just have to add modern, contemporary elements to it. And when those days you get discouraged and down, you can reflect on all. Shah Shakur went through the same thing. She persevered, had fortitude, triumph. Toni Morrison, Angela Davis, Fannie Lou Hamer, Malcolm X, Khalid Muhammad, all those pivotal notable Black figures. And you have a Black-tastic future doing that.
Yeah, that was a phenomenal answer. Oh, he deserves a hand clap too. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be in between. What I want to say is also reach out to the people that you might not have like-minded interests with, or those that do not know about liberation or know that they want or need liberation, because those are often the people that are forgotten within our communities. So I would say, once you have already put that knowledge within yourself, while you continue to talk with people who are like-minded, who are already on a path to liberation, don't forget those, who are not. And I say that because that is so important to our overall liberation. Like, we have to pick each other up, as we gain more knowledge, as we move forward, or else we're not going to get to where we want to get to. because we're going to leave people behind. And that, you know, kind of goes in disservice to what liberation is all about. So definitely keep that in mind when you are on your journey and going throughout your journey. Don't leave a brother or sister behind. Like, we all need to work together and collaborate and grow together.
I'm going to build off of you guys because you said reflect and read and learn. And you said make sure to grab the people who are in the room who may not see it. I'm going to say the way that I keep Black liberation going in my life, I'm already liberated, so I'm maintaining it. Maintaining it meaning that I'm reflecting on the outside world as well as my inside self. Am I staying true to the vision that I saw? Am I living in the world that I was talking about? Am I living pain free? And if there is a situation or a moment that comes up where I am met with oppression, I know the language of oppression. I don't speak it no more, but I know it, and so I can address it appropriately. Wait a minute, there's a boundary that's about to be crossed. You're about to go into something that you don't have enough to ever have my freedom. So you stay right there. I'm going to stay right here. You keep on, then we're going to go into our Brother Malcolm era, and it's by any means. But I think the maintaining our boundaries and maintaining the life of keeping it going of I've wanted this. My family wanted this. I want this for the 7 who are after me. So I'm going to keep it going and keep that at the forefront of my mind.
For me, I'm an overthinker. Habits and behaviors, right? So really looking at what habits and behaviors that you want to see change. Change within your work, change within your family, change within generations to come. I think I say this all the time, like it's a constant goal, but we got to put together a strategy to keep going. And so for me, it's to constantly keep going. It's like I see loopholes within my work. Someone's going to come after me after I leave that job. So how about I make this space liberated for the next Black woman or for the next person that comes in after me? That's work is done. Okay, moving on to my next thing, my family. We got years and years of untrauma and things that we need to work on. I'm starting with getting my family some mental health, right? Like habits, behaviors that I'm trying to change so I can change the mindset. And I think, like I said, being able to take a break, right? I don't think we talk about that. Like you can take a break and saying like, hey, I can't, I don't have the capacity right now. I just need to take some mental time because you need to be ready for the long haul or whatever the case may be. But like, I think those are some key things that you should really focus on.
I'll be brief. I say 2 things. Number one, when I think about why you have instances like today and then they stop is because we have set an impractical pace. And the pace we set is impractical because of what we compare it to. And comparison in our context is a killer. So oftentimes we're comparing our progress to the progress of the systems we seek to dismantle. The difficult part about that is we trying to dismantle a system been around for 600 years. That's not going to be dismantled in a 60-minute event. So the first thing I said, we say that good things take time. So when it takes time, it's probably a good thing. Well, take your time to be liberated and set a more practical pace. And you set a more practical pace by understanding that, one, if the system's been in place for conservatively 350 years, I think practically somewhere between 500 and 600 years, it's going to take more than 60 minutes or 60 years to dismantle it. But you know what we don't take into account? Economics. The compounding interest of capitalism is nasty work. So we know stocks, right? Stocks compound with time, right? The more money I keep in the market, the longer I keep it there, it grows in value. Capitalism and racism, the same thing. So if I'm trying to compete with a 600-year-old system that's been compounding for 600 years, not only do I need to rest, I need to reassess. Number 2, when I do reassess, I have to set a better pace. And the pace I set is this, right? How do I know what pace to set to figure out what progress I can actually seek? Think about your comrades. See, we don't fight alone. We fight together. You know, I had a comrade who said, I want to go and do a race in the mountains. And it was a peculiar decision. But he's my comrade. And the greatest thing about my comrade was that some people started that race alone. We started 12 deep. We were like disciples.
Mm. And listen, or eggs, because scrambled eggs. But what I will say is the mark of a great leader and the mark of a sustainable pace for dismantling racism and white supremacy to perpetuate black liberation is that that leader right there never went so fast that his comrades could not keep up. And as leaders, we've got to know the pace of our comrades. And a lot of us are running the race alone, so we don't know how to set the proper pace. A lot of us are hyperventilating, attempting to breathe easy. And that don't make sense. So that's what I'd say. Set a better pace. You know your people are breathing. Shout out to Ray.
Oh, that was good. Yes.
You were talking about setting the pace. I want to add in, if you don't know how to set the pace, trust the pace that's being set. There's somebody in the room that said that they were wanting to be a civil rights leader, and they traveled across the country and did just that. So if we set in the pace, and everybody else don't, I'm not saying everybody else, but if we're saying I don't know what pace to set, well, look to the pace that maybe somebody else is setting. If there's another organization, if there's the Ross Center is setting a pace for the East Side. If P30 is setting a pace for the East Side, well, go follow the pace, or the pace that maybe fits you.
All right, G, you had a question?
That's a real good question. Thank you for asking it. Yeah, so the question was, what as leaders in Black liberation and for our different accolades, what is it that we've seen, or what troubles have we seen that we may be able to share for everyone so that we don't continue that? Is that correct? I'm first and foremost going to say that, and I'm not digging on nobody. I just want to put that out there. I'm not digging on nobody. But tonight we said that we got to lean on Black women, that Black women are the leaders. Yet I have found that when I am leading, I get questioned a whole lot. And I give a PowerPoint presentation. I will tell you, this is the agenda. This is the first, second, third, fourth thing we're going to do. This is the time it's going to take to do it. These are the people that we need. I need 4 volunteers right here. I can tell very specifically and give very direct directions, but still will be questioned on, is this the correct step to make? Is this the real amount of people we need? Is this, are you sure? Da-da-da-da-da. And in the time that we've asked these questions in which you really are rebuttaling me, and it's for whatever reason, it might be because I'm short, because I'm Black, because I'm a woman, because of whatever reason we might have, I got blue hair. However, in the time that we were spending questioning me, we've already lost time. And let me tell you, I've sat in rooms where they told me the exact amount of time we need to catch up to the dominant system. And it's like millions of years. I don't have the time. I don't. But however, I will say this, I got all the time I need to get things done. Everything that we wanted to get done, we've done it. Everything I want to get done, I will get it done. The other part that I also will put out there really quick as a challenge to us is the conversation that we are having with our elders. I know that on social media, it's the boomers versus the millennials. It's the boomers versus X versus Gen Z. we cannot be like the other culture. We cannot be like the other society where we are talking down to our elders. Now, I know that sometimes our elders will talk out the side of their neck, and you can respond. You can respond, and that's still being respectful. However, we cannot keep coming at our older generations of you didn't do this, you didn't do this, you didn't do this, you didn't do this, and not take into account the context of the situation that they were living in. How many of us are afraid of being lynched? I do some weird work, so I've been in some weird parts of Indiana. How many of us have ever had to share crop? How many of us are farmers in the room? Okay, shout out. Shout out. Come on. Come on. But most of us don't know what it's like to be out in the sun for 12 hours a day and then trying to make good decisions. Some of us don't know what it's like to have 3 kids working 4 jobs, trying to make sure they get into school on time. Some of us don't know what that is like, and that comes with a certain mentality, that comes with a certain set of experiences, and we cannot continue to spend so much time telling them you didn't do, you didn't do, you didn't do. Instead, maybe we should change it up. I see what you went through, and I'm making decisions so that we don't have to do that no more. That broke your back, literally. You had surgery. It broke your back. And I don't want that to happen to I don't want that to happen to me. I don't want it to happen to the people in the room, and I don't want it to happen to the generations after us.
Yes, it is. The question was, what is everyone's viewpoint for the next projected 5 to 10 years of the Black community? And can we also be mindful? I just want to be respectful of everyone's time. Can we be mindful of our answers? Thank you.
Question was, where do we see?
Well, it's not really my opinion. It's based off historic context, because history is always most qualified to prove all research. Politics has never been in favor of Black people based off history. It doesn't matter who's in the White House. You know, we've always gotten the short end of the stick. So I think based off history, it's kind of futile and foolish to depend on them to change our conditions, circumstances, and overall predicament. So it don't matter if we get another brother in the White House, another sister in the White House. I mean, it's called the White House for a reason. So it's not going to benefit us. I think we should just lie on ourselves, implement ethno aggregation. Every group of people does for themselves. Why can't we do it for ourselves? You know, we did it back in the day, ancient African civilizations, empires, kingdoms, and queendoms, so we can do it again. We just have to rely on ourselves. We can't depend on politics to save us. So,
my quick answer is that I think part of us is going to separate. I think part of us are going to continue to stay in the larger system that it is, and we'll play into it. That's my answer.
I think in the next 10 years, we're going to do the same thing we're doing right now. We just going to know more about what's being done. A lot of people not stacking over shine because they don't know that you stacking over shine. And it's going to be more people that know about people stacking over shine in the next 10 years because Black folks ain't never been silent. The frequency of media just ain't always been where we at. It's more people getting that frequency than ever before. So it might be more conflict whole time, but all right, I'm going to stop.
I would also add to that there are organizations doing the work. I will also say media companies like Mirror Indie, Stack Overshine, like our media platforms on social media, the conversations are being had about us, but there's also townhome hall meetings for us to attend. It's about, do we take the time out of our busy schedule to hear what they're saying about us and voice our opinion? So whether you involve yourself in those meetings, the conversation is always going to be had about us, but you got to show up for you, period.
And so, to the question, as a political scientist, I would say that question is so heavy and loaded. And it's loaded because we can't see into the future, but we can cognitively think about how we want to progress into the future. And that's why I was intentional about what I shared today, because when we ask those type of questions, look within your own self to see what you can do to see what you can do to impact our community over the next 5 to 10 years. I'm gonna be real honest with you. You can talk to almost any political scientist, and they will tell you that this so-called democracy is failing. It was failing from the beginning, and that's because none of us in this room were considered in any type of drafting and the creation of this country. And so, like Aisha said, we're noticing conflict. There's gonna be people that are not going to understand. There's going to be people that do understand what's really happening. And so I can see a lot of more growing tension between our communities because of that. I mean, we can see that already now. And I think that, honestly, I'm not even going to lie to you all. I'm going to be honest. I see it getting worse. And that's because while we are having these conversations, they have already put them documents in place. So we have to try to catch up to that. And I will say from experience, we are a bit behind in understanding what's really unfolding before our eyes. So documents like 2025, people just not hearing about that, but they've been writing that for years. And I don't know if people fully grasp what that looks like if it becomes into fruition. So honestly, I cannot answer that question for you. It's up to all of us in this room. It's up to the people on listening. It's up to us in our entire Black community to try and figure out what do we want our next 5 to 10 years to be, because nobody else has to dictate that for us, but we have to do the work in order for it to become a reality, what we want.
All right, you have a question? The question was asked, what conversation and resources that we need to have to continue the conversation of Black liberation, and then so that you can disperse to your audience.
Thank you for the question. So I went to school for higher education, college students. And so really, I mean, Murdoch could probably tell you this, Aisha as well, we started off as student organizations. Like before we was in these platforms now, I was president of Black Student Union trying to get, funding for people who look like me, trying to have conversations with like-minded people who cared about what I cared about. When you look at universities, they were made for white men. And so we have HBCUs, we have all those things, but that didn't take, it took like over 100 years for us to get a first female dean. And so when we think of just the complex of universities, it's a lot of work to be done there. I tell my college students, I think it's great that we are trying to change the world, but we should start trying to change the campus that we are on for the next generation. And so I think getting into a student organization, or if you don't see one, start one. I promise you it's easy to do. Start a student organization and start to connect with like-minded people who want to have those conversations. Also, figure out some gaps that are on campus. You might not have resources that you need. You might not have actual education. When we think about the courses that are taught in college universities, there's a lack on when we think about African American history and all those things. And so really start with finding a student organization. finding like-minded people. It's honestly, we can talk after this because I'm sure I could probably connect you to just someone that's on a university campus. It's a lot of, even if you're not a first-generation college student, it's a lot of first-generation centers. I was a part of student support services, so me being a first-gen, being a part of that program, whether it's whatever the case may be, it connected me to more people. And so first, just figuring out, like I said, the connection to people, organizations that you want to be a part of, because there are college students that are eager to do the work that you want to do.
First to you, I'm going to say, wherever we be, we shall still love thee. Fisk, my alma mater, right? So I'm very, very happy for you. That is a great institution, and it's a great place where you will learn about Black history. I would tell you, go to the library. There's some spaces in there, and there's some wonderful people that are in there who have keys to the knowledge that's been locked away from us from so long. There's so much information that I know about us and our people because I sat in the library and I asked, what do you think I should know, right? The other part that I'm definitely going to piggyback, join an organization. It's going to teach you some leadership skills. It's going to teach you some interpersonal skills. While you're here, I'm also going to always shout out the Antidotes. It's a mercy program that is for anybody 12 to like 29, where we teach how to cope. We teach about substances so that you can make the best decisions for you, as well as hooking people up with mentors so that it's not just you going out into the world by yourself or you just going to a campus by yourself, that there's somebody that you can connect with, that you can bounce questions off of, that if something happens, that you can tell them and that they can also fight for you, because you also need an advocate. And part of that and part of the Antidotes is learning how to advocate with your peers. So that's why I put that out there.
Yeah, I want to be just piggyback off of them. I'm kind of a recent graduate. It's been 2 years. But I would say don't be afraid to take up space, like in any capacity, shape, or form. I was the one who started a campus organization all on my own. And I had people, kind of talk down upon it and all of that. But like Lashate said, it's easier than it seems like it is. And if you feel like things are inadequate, things are not working how you feel like, they should be, don't be afraid to start something. Don't be afraid to go out there and create the space, take up space. But what I'm going to encourage you is, while we're saying all this stuff to you, is don't burn yourself out. And I'm saying that from a fellow burnt out person. I tried to change the world when I was in school. Do not try to do that. Try to take up the space that you can take up and, make sure that you do that and be impactful. But I also want to say, while we're talking about this in higher education, also think about those that are not in higher education. Like, that is the back of my mind and why I'm doing the work that I'm doing too. Working with youth who have been incarcerated, working with youth who are not, as privileged as some of us may be, they are important too. And so if you find a way to kind of intersection that into your work, also think about them as well. But I would say, like they said, don't be afraid to take up space. Also, Circle City Storytellers is a great connect because I want to tap into the storytelling journal as well. Storytelling and telling our stories is one way of liberation as well, because we have had white people telling our stories or omitting our stories from history. And one way to be able to take back that and reclaim our power is to be able to tell our stories authentically and being able to document that. I mean, I don't know how many of y'all in the room know who your great-great-great-grandparents are, but being able to, that's good, being able to have those documents and being able to share your stories, not only with your family, friends, but with our community, is also a great starting point in sharing that as well. So, again, do all the things that they mentioned, but also don't forget about yourself. Don't forget about rest, because that's also resistance. That's a part of liberation as well. So don't forget that either.
Y'all done heard the 4 alarms? Because people ain't slick. They said, hey, I got to go home. I do, yeah, so this is what I'm going to do. Because I do want to say something to what you just said. Because you asked a lot of questions, and we didn't answer all them questions. But it is one thing I do want to make sure I tell you. And then I'm going to give it back to Keela, because we probably got to close out this Q&A. So I'm taking credit for that. I talked for too long today, and it limited our Q&A. So I'm taking responsibility for that. But, brother, what you just said, we know you a black college student. You walk out into that world, They don't know you in college. So the fact that you in college is not what positions you to make an impact. God called you. That's what positions you to make an impact. And so to Tierra's point, college gives you the space to figure some stuff out, but you ain't got to be in college to figure some stuff out. As a matter of fact, most black people in college often think, dang, why am I here? Because the things that this is teaching me ain't got nothing to do with what it is I want to do with my life. So what I'm going to just tell you is, whether it's college, your first corporate job, your first partner, whatever it might be, and just never lose who you are. Because a lot of people get into the college stage of life and they forget who they are. And they forget because the system is trying to convince them to change. Because a lot of us wasn't meant to be where we at. That's the premise of why we love HBCU so much. Because finally, I'm in a space, and I'm taking too much of my time. Sorry. We're finally in a space where my perspective is centered. But guess what? The same rich white people who started Harvard are the same rich white folks who started 99% of those HBCUs. The difference is who they marketed to. But that's the beauty of knowing the origin of your story. That's why I gave you them definitions. So what I'm just saying is, black man, whether it was Fisk or Ivy Tech, you special. You special. And that's to everybody, because some of us ain't never going to be at Fisk or Ivy Tech. But your block makes you special. It makes you special. It makes you special. And don't let no system change you. Don't let no system change you. So to the youth, man, do what makes sense, bro. Because y'all are the future, so make it. You hear me? Make it, yeah.
Wow, Brother Murdoch, that's a hard act to follow. Hard act to follow. What I will say is, ending the 2024 Black Liberation Lecture Series, we had a chance to really have the conversation, but also get some solutions, and then find out what's our next steps. I want y'all to, after we close out right now, I want y'all to connect with us. Have the conversation, as Lashante said, have the conversation with us. Let's meet and come up with our action plans together, because together we can do great things. So, okay, and add the sponsor. Oh, yes, Brother Murdoch. Yes, Brother Murdoch. You want a microphone? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hey, we got a yes. Let me get it. You want to talk while I go get this thing out the office real quick?
With any black effort, the mighty black woman has always been the backbone of it. I'm going off the dome. Yeah. We got to thank this mighty black-tastic woman for being the backbone of this effort. We there. Yup. Yup. Hey.
Last year, Ashley slid to the first Black Liberation Lecture Series. She said it was smooth. She said she enjoyed her time. And then this black woman spent her time, talent, and treasure to make sure. Y'all see all this equipment? Yeah, that's not free. You hear me? It costs to be the, and freedom is not what? Yes, and black people deserve to get paid exactly what they charge. And it was because of Ashley that we were able to make this investment to scale not just in volume, but in value. Everybody online, this ain't possible without Ashley. Everybody in person, this ain't possible without Ashley. And so we giving you your flowers, you hear me?
And now, cut the show. We got the party. Okay, close out. Yeah, we good.
One more question?
I believe it's important for us to all leave with resources that are tangible. So is it possible for you all to share with us a book, a documentary that impacted your life and the way that you view Black liberation?
I'll be short and brief. My highest level of formal education is a high school diploma. I re-educated myself through Afrocentric Black focused books. Out of my 200 books in my extensive collection, my greatest 2 books were the autobiography of Malcolm X and The New Jim Crow, Mass Incarceration, Age of Colorblindness by Michelle Alexander.
I'm gonna go a different direction. I'll be working on myself, y'all. How We Heal, Alex Woods. It's a reflection book. It talks, dive into your emotions, how you undo some trauma and some things like that. So, get the book. It's really good.
Since I'm a Fiskite, I'm gonna go with the Fiskite. I'm gonna go with Souls of Black Folks by Brother W.E.D. Du Bois.
And I'm gonna say, yeah, I'm a book person, so it's hard to just think of one. But I got to Rest is Resistance by Trisha Hersey is really important. And The Body Keeps the Score. So both of those are really important. And I think every black person needs to read those.
And I'm gonna end by saying I got a grief coach. That was like the best thing ever because I've always been taught that nobody can fix your problems but you. But releasing some of the things that I think and the way that I think have been restorative and rest. Oh my goodness, this grace. Give yourself grace. Clap for yourself. Have you tried clapping for yourself in the mirror? Like Lord, it's beautiful.